Hey, what's up there, YouTubers? Edgman Sinadrop coming to you guys here today with another deck tech. So today we're going to be taking a look at a standard deck, and it is Green, White, or Selesnya Humans. So before we get to this deck breakdown, if you guys have any suggestions for decks that you would like to see, please leave it down in the comments below, and I'll take it into consideration for future deck techs. And remember to check out the playlist in the description below, where I have all the previous decks that I've covered, so you guys can use that as a reference or check out other awesome stuff that I've covered before. So the first thing that we are taking a look at here, like any of the deck techs that you'll see on the channel, is the land base. So we're running 24 lands, starting off with Temple Garden, which is a playset. So I'll put that off to the side down here. From there we have Sunpetal Grove, so this is going to be a playset as well. From there we have Cavern of Souls, so we're running this as a 3-of instead of a playset, and the reason why we run it as a 3-of is that we don't want to see it way too consistently, because we still want to have our appropriate mana to cast non-creature spells like Rancor, also Ajani, Caller of the Pride, that requires double white, and Cavern of Souls is only going to provide colored mana for the specific type of creature that we choose whenever it comes into the battlefield. So it is good when it comes to fixing for our humans if we're a little bit short of the specific colors that we need, and it also makes our humans uncounterable, or also our other types if we want to name another type if we already named humans. But Cavern is definitely good whenever it comes to playing against cards like Syncopate, Essence Scatter, and Dissipate, and it gets the job done in not letting your opponent have resources to counter our creatures. So 3 Cavern of Souls for a little bit of fixing, but more so I think for the fact that your opponent's not going to be able to use counter spells. From there we have our utility lands, so we're running 2 Gavony Township, and Gavony Township is really nice because whenever it comes to later game and we're still trying to just bridge that gap and win outright, Gavony Township is going to be here for 4 mana, 2 generic, 1 green, 1 white, and tapping Gavony Township itself, we got to put a +1/+1 counter on each creature we control. So it's a nice way to make everything just really huge, and whenever it comes to the late game and you're kind of at a standstill, it's really nice to have that utility to be able to do stuff. So from there we have our basics, so we're running 6 basic planes. So put those down here, 3 and 3. And then we have 5 forests. So pretty close to equal whenever it comes to distribution of what colors we have. So yeah, that's the land-based 24 lands. Now we're going to take a look at the rest of the deck, starting off with our creatures in ascending order. So we have Champion of the Parish, a 1/1 for 1. And we're running him as a playset. Whenever another human enters the battlefield, he gets a +1/+1 counter on him, making him pretty big pretty quick. So put him off to the side here. From there we have Avacyn's Pilgrim, so another 1/1 for 1 green, and he taps for 1 white mana to our mana pool, so he lets us fix a little bit. Sure, it's not any mana of any color, so he wouldn't be able to add green in like a Birds of Paradise could, but still Avacyn's Pilgrim is really nice. It lets us accelerate, especially if we want to drop like a turn 2 Ajani, Caller of the Pride, which is awesome, and just start building up his counters. But Avacyn's Pilgrim is definitely still good. It lets us ramp up a little bit ahead and play things a little bit sooner. We're running it as a playset. From there we have our 2-drops. So we have Angel of Glory, Knight of Glory, should I say. 2/1 for 1 generic, 1 white, protection from black, which is relevant against decks like zombies. And he has Exalted as well, so whether he's attacking alone or one of your other creatures are attacking alone, they're going to get a +1/+1 buff off of them whenever they attack by themselves. So we're running a playset of the Knight, and I think that the most relevant thing is just the protection from black. The protection from black is really nice, especially against zombies, because you can have just that outright way of them not being able to get rid of them, or at least having a really tough time getting rid of them. As far as I think red and black zombies goes, they have an easier time of getting rid of Knight of Glory, but black-green zombies has less ways to actually do so. And he's also good against any other decks that are running outlets of removal in black, stuff like Jund mid-range, whenever it comes to dread boards and stuff like that, they're going to have to use pillars and other means of getting rid of them. From there, we have Mayor of Avabruck. So he is a 1/1 for 2, 1 generic, 1 green. Other humans you control get +1/+1, so he's a nice anthem for all our creatures. And at the beginning of our upkeep, he gets to transform. So he transforms into a 3/3, and I'll flip one of these guys over because I didn't do so right before the video, which I usually want to do, but he's a 3/3, and other werewolves and wolf creatures you control get +1/+1, and at the beginning of your end step, put a 2/2 green wolf creature token onto the battlefield. So he's going to be able to produce some 2/2s for us, or in the case of him with his Anthem, 3/3s, but ultimately he's pretty nice. He also works well with Garruk Relentless, where Garruk Relentless can make 2/2s as well, so the Mayor is definitely relevant, whether he's in his front form or his back side form, but he's still pretty good. He's pretty good with an Anthem. So, running a play set of the Mayor. From there, we have Silverblade Paladin, so 2/2 for 3, Soul Bond, and whenever he's paired with another creature, both creatures have double strike. Really nice and easy way to bash in and just get a huge amount of damage in. So, play set of the Silverblade. From there, we have Wolfir Silverheart, so again, another Soulbond creature, and even though he's not a human, he's still ridiculously good in this type of a build. And as long as he's paired with another creature, each of those creatures get +4/+4. So Wolfir becomes an 8/8, and whatever other creature you have gets 4 power and toughness of an increase. So we're running him as a 3/of. From there, we have our non-creature stuff, so we have Ajani, Caller of the Pride, 4 loyalty, 3 cost, +1/+1 counter on up to 1 target creature. His -3 gives a creature flying and double strike until the end of the turn, and -8 is to put X amount of 2/2s onto the battlefield, where X is our life total. So we're running him as a 3/of. He's a nice way to start building up our creatures, and ideally if we can get him out there on turn 3, that would be really awesome. It doesn't happen all the time, but it does. There are instances where it happens, and it's really nice. But Ajani, Caller of the Pride is a nice way to single out creatures, make them bigger, make them a lot harder to get rid of with spot removal that isn't just outright kill or exile. And overall, I think he's really solid. His loyalty is really huge to the cost that you're actually putting into him. So, I mean, even if you try to get up to his ultimate, it's not very... You're not going to be going at like a really slow pace to get up to that. So, his ultimate isn't far-fetched. From there, we have Garruk Relentless. So Garruk Relentless is a 4 loyalty, and the main thing with him is we're going to be making 2/2s. So with that, we can just make a huge amount of 2/2s. If we have the Anthem from the Mayor flipped, it's there, it's relevant, but ultimately it just makes more creatures for us, and it makes a larger board state, and even if our board gets wiped, we can still create more creatures from there. So we're running 2 Garruk Relentless. Just a really easy way to make a bunch of creatures. From there, we have Rancor. So Rancor is going to be a playset in the deck. So 1 green and enchanted creature. Enchanted creature gets +2/+0 and has trample, which is incredibly relevant, especially with stuff like double strike with the Silverblade Paladin and stuff like that. But whenever Rancor is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, we get to return it to its owner's hand, which is nice. So we get to reuse it if our creature gets killed. So Rancor is a playset here. And then the last card that we have in the main board is Oblivion Ring. So I have one of my Russian Lorwyn ones, but Oblivion Ring, just 3 cost, exile, target non-land permanent, should I say, but you just get to get rid of anything that's really threatening, and as long as the Oblivion Ring sticks, you're not going to have to worry about it. So playset Oblivion Ring just to get rid of annoying things. So we have that. So that's the main board. Now we're going to take a look at the sideboard and the sideboard options that we have. So first off, we have Faith's Shield. So this is just going to be a 1/of in our sideboard, and this is against anything that is going to be running a lot of spot removal. Also board wipes in the form of bonfires, and also Mizia Mortars as well. It's going to be an easy way with Faith Shield where you get to save one creature, especially if it's something big like Champion. If Champion's already gotten pretty big, you can give protection from whatever is trying to target him, and you can just have the upper hand there because it's going to be a 1-for-1 trade with your opponent tries to remove it, you Faith Shield it, and you save that creature. So we side in one against appropriate matchups where they have enough removal where they're able to get rid of stuff. Mid-range decks, Jund mid-range, also red deck wins because they tend to transition from burning us out into burning our creatures and running us into a wall. And also, I mean, anything that's going to try to have with removal and get rid of all of our stuff. From there, we're also running Rootborn Defenses as a 1-of, and this is more so against other aggro matchups and also decks that are running a lot of removal because we can give all of our creatures indestructible, which is relevant. And against aggro matchups where we would usually be trading 1-for-1, Rootborn Defenses can come in and we can respond and have our opponent's creatures die and ours don't. And the populate I don't think is really as relevant. We're not running Gather the Townsfolk because we want to have strength in bigger creatures rather than just strength in a huge board presence. And Rootborn Defenses, I mean, if you're already playing off of the Garruk Relentless, you can populate from there, but the Indestructible is definitely relevant for the 3 mana. So 1 Rootborn Defenses. We're going to put these up here. From there, we have Ray of Revelation, so destroy target enchantment for 2 mana, and it has a flashback for 1 green, so this is going to be nice. We have 2 of them, and this is going to be against Detention Spheres, Oblivion Rings, anything that's a huge nuisance to us, so double Ray. Also, Curse of Death Soul, if our opponent's running it, it becomes a nuisance, so we have that. We have Sigarda, Host of Herons, so this one's more so the mid-range matchup, especially Jund mid-range, because they don't really have a way to get rid of her. Bonfire for 5 is pretty far-fetched, so whenever we have Sigarda out there, Jund mid-range isn't going to be able to do a whole lot, and she's pretty hard to get rid of, so against decks that don't really have a way to deal with her, we like to side her in, and the hexproof and the effect that she has where spells and abilities that our opponents control can cause us to sacrifice permanents, that's also relevant. So we have her as a 1-up, side her in whenever she seems to be good. From there we have 2 Nevermore, so Nevermore we can get rid of or at least inhibit any big things from dropping, especially stuff like Thragtusk because he's so annoying in the format right now. We can drop Nevermore, name whatever big win condition our opponent has, and just have less of a chance of having to deal with that. I mean, sure, Nevermore is definitely easily dealt with cards like Abrupt Decay, but they still have to trade with Nevermore and use those means of getting rid of it to be able to resolve the other things that they want to resolve. So we have 2 Nevermore on the side just to make it less likely for them to play, and if they don't get that removal, they're not able to play big things. From there, we have Odric, Master Tactician, so he's a first strike creature. We're running him as a 1-of. He's a 3/4 for 4, and the biggest thing about him is, again, aggro matchups where he's really good because he has first strike and he can trade with other creatures, and they're not going to be as likely to swing in. But the nice thing about him is whenever he's swinging in with at least 3 other creatures, you can choose how to block with those creatures and how your opponent's other creatures are going to be blocked and all that fun stuff. So you can just make it so that none of your opponent's creatures are blocking an alpha strike in for the win. So I think that's a nice thing with Odric. And I mean, even if you don't get to that point, the first strike is definitely still relevant because it gets rid of Thragtusk. And I think that's pretty huge. They swing in with Thragtusk, you can first strike block and get rid of Thragtusk. They get the 3/3, which, I mean, even still the first strike gets there. So Odric is definitely really good against other aggro matchups. And I think whenever you're able to alpha strike with them, it's really nice as well. Another singleton that we have in our sideboard is Riders of Gavony. So this one is more so against the zombies matchup. Anything that's really trying to run tribal against us is going to have a bad time whenever we start siding in Riders of Gavony. Even though it's a 1-of, whenever we drop it, against like zombies. We have all of our humans have protection from zombies or anything equal of a matchup, I guess. But the bigger thing is zombies, and it's a 3/3 for 4. It has vigilance itself, but the fact that we can swing in and they have protection, so our opponent's creatures can't block. Our creatures can block and not take damage from them. I think that that's really relevant. And as a 3/3 for 4 body, it's still pretty fair. The vigilance, I mean, even if it didn't have vigilance, it would still be good. But Riders of Gavony also provides itself as a creature where it can be blocking against whatever tribal-based thing you're naming, and you have a blocker and a swinger out of it. So Riders of Gavony is also relevant alongside Odric for one-ofs in the sideboard. From there, we have Rest in Peace. So we're running this as a 3-of, and this is against any Reanimator shenanigans. So, I mean, for 2 mana, you drop it and exiles all cards from graveyards. And if a token or a card would be put into a graveyard from anywhere, exile it instead. So this is going to assure that Reanimator doesn't play off of any of their quick-paced shenanigans of getting things sooner, and it might put them at a huge wall and huge disadvantage. So we're on 3 Rest in Peace, and we have no real disadvantage for running it. If we drop it, we're not going to suffer any consequence for using it, so Rest in Peace is definitely appropriate. And then we have Garruk Primal Hunter. So Garruk Primal Hunter is a 2-of in the sideboard, and this sides in more so than anything else for just control. And whenever it comes down to control, Garruk Primal Hunter is going to be nice because even if they board wipe, if they get rid of our stuff, we're going to be able to effectively make 3/3s, and his -3 ability is also relevant. We get to draw cards equal to the greatest power among creatures we control, so he's an outlet for being able to draw into more things. His ultimate, we can ultimate off, but against control, they can deal with it with another board wipe. But the +1 and the -3 are relevant against control, and I like siding him in and having that upper hand where they can Supreme Verdict, they can Terminus, but ultimately they have to deal with Primal Hunter or else they're going to lose pretty quick, because we can still make a huge board presence for ourselves with all the tokens that we can make with them. But he sides in more so for control than anything else. And then we have Armada Wurm. So Armada Wurm is just a 1-of in the sideboard, and it's really awesome. A lot of decks have been running Armada Wurm recently, but it's a 5/5 for 6 mana. The 6 mana is a little bit expensive for this deck, but I mean, with the ramping that we have, especially with Avacyn's Pilgrim, it doesn't make it too hard to get into that 6 mana zone where we can cast stuff like this. But against other types of aggro decks, being able to make 2 5/5s for 6 mana is pretty big. When we can make 1 5/5 for like 5 or 6 mana, like sure, maybe they can deal with it, but it's a lot harder to deal with 2 5/5s that both have trample. So we run 1 Armada Wurm against anything that likes strength in numbers rather than strength in just a couple of really big creatures. So the Armada Wurm is definitely relevant. So that about does it for this deck text. So this was the green-white human / Selesnya humans, whatever you guys want to call it. So remember to like, favorite, and subscribe for more Magic the Gathering content. The deck list is down below where you guys can use it as a reference. And remember to check out the playlist in the description as well, where I have all the previous decks that I've covered, so you guys can check out some more cool stuff that I've already covered. But until next time, guys, have a wonderful, fun-filled Magic the Gathering day.